a 25% chance that that's the case. Well, if you'd have a person in a room and you'd offer that person, you show them at the end of the wall there are 4 doors leading into 4 separate rooms. In 3 of the rooms, there's a nice chair and table laden with all kinds of goodies. And in the 4th room, there are a bunch of lions that will rip you to pieces if you walk in. Fierce bulldogs, ferocious dogs that are going to rip you to pieces. And I'd like to pay you $100,000 to risk going into one of those doors. You may be great. How many people would go in? How many people would go in for $1 million? How many people would go for $10 million? Life is not, I'm not playing with my life. But we're playing with our lives. That's the reality. Why is that? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu clouded our minds. So we live in this world and we think somehow or other this world is the end destination. We function under that premise. And we have to superimpose over our mind the knowledge or the belief that yes, there's a next world and I want to get mitzvahs and I want to be able to be close to Hashem for eternity. But I have to kind of force myself. It's so distant from my reality. I have blinkers on my eyes. This forum tells us something very fascinating. When Hashem first created Adam Harishon, the Chazal tell us that Shnei Akevov Kishnei Galgalei Chama. He shone, he was incandescent with spiritual life. Rabbi Chaim Vital writes, his body was like our soul, which means he was angelic, he was godly, he reflected God in this world. There was no limitations that he was imposed to. And then the Torah tells us that Hashem saw that he has to live with conflict in order to realize some level of perfection on his level, and therefore he needed a counterpart. Adam himself had to come to that recognition, and it was almost as if Adam was asking Hashem, give me a counterpart, give me completion, give me the opportunity for perfection, and Hashem puts him into a sleep. To perform the operation, Hashem puts him under Hashem's anesthesia. Vayapel Hashem Elokim tardeimo al ha'adam. Vayisham, and he fell asleep. Hashem fell upon him all of a sudden a tardema. Whoa, that's like taking a bottle of Ambien. I don't know what it's like, but can you imagine? Hashem put Vayapel tardema, rodum, raid, very deep sleep. And he slept. And at that time Hashem took from him a tzela mitzaloisov. He took a rib from his side, so to speak literally. We understand this figuratively, obviously. And he created from Adam Chava, and there were 2 sides of one coin, and now they had to find completion. But nowhere in the Torah do we find that he woke up afterwards. All it says is that Hashem brought he brought the woman to the man, and Adam said, he never woke up. This forum tells us we never woke up because we're living in a drugged, Hashem drugged us in a way that we live in a limited frame of consciousness. If we would live in the reality of our soul, in like the recognition and acknowledgement of Hashem that Adam originally lived, to sin would be like putting a hand in fire. We wouldn't have free choice. Hashem has to put us in this material physical body that pulls in so many different directions and confronts us in so many different ways, and we're asleep at the wheel, and we have to, even though we're asleep, we're holding on. You know, when I'm driving down the highway late at night, I'm coming back from a chasna and it's 1 o'clock in the morning on the Palisades, it's not very light. You know, I open up the window, fresh air, give me that blast. And sometimes I still feel I'm drooping at the wheel, it's dangerous. I put the music on banging high. It's crazy high. I gotta stay awake. I come already, I'm by exit 5, exit 6, another 15 minutes, I'm gonna be home. How am I gonna do it? Sometimes I have to put my head down for a few minutes at a way station there. Sometimes I say, no, I'm jumping up and down in the seat instead of holding onto the wheel. I'm making sure I'm alive. I got to do it because I'm fighting sleep. we have to fight sleep. And Hashem gives us that ability to be able to see. How do we fight sleep? We're constantly tracing the dots all the way to the source. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for giving me mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, each mitzvah gives us an opportunity to connect. So thank you, you made me a yid. Thank you, you didn't make me a slave. Thank you, you made me a man that I have more opportunities and abilities to find and connect the dots. That I have clothes to clothe my nakedness. That I have a sense of busha and embarrassment. I have sensitivities. And I can serve you. Thank you for all these physical gifts you give me. That I can stand on firm earth and I can walk and I can gird my belt and I can utilize all these physical gifts in the spiritual realm. Hama'aveh, you move, hama'aveh, you move over. Sheina, sleep. Ma'aveh is crossover, pushover, sleep from my eyes. The blinkers, that I could see through the blinkers. Usnuma, even when we're awake, we're like nim v'le nim, we're fighting drowsiness. But you take it away, me'afapai, because the eyelids drop automatically and it's hard to see Hashem. Reich, we have to see, if we only open up our eyes, we see Hashem's giving us bracha and klala, is giving us so much blessing, so much opportunity to celebrate Him and life every moment. And then we're pulled into this state of semi-consciousness. That's klala. Klala, the body is oral. We're cursed from the ground from which we were taken. And cursed means that we're disconnected. Curse is a disconnect. The most painful sensation that we feel in life is loneliness and rejection. Loneliness and rejection, because we want to be connected. And Hashem helps us. The more we see, the more we can live in that domain, as we said, of the higher domain, the more we're connected. Probably just testing the alarm system, not to worry. It's just another distraction. But we won't be distracted by all the noise. We hear it. It's a fire alarm. There's a fire in this world. And we're running outside. We're running to Him. The next bracha continues. V'hi ratzon, very beautiful bracha. V'hi ratzon milfonecha. Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Aviseinu. Shetargileinu b'sorosecha. That you should be targileinu b'sorosecha. What does targileinu mean? Targileinu is from the word regal. Regal means hergelis, regilus. Regal is the feet. The feet lead us. Targileinu b'sorosecha. Make it natural for us. You know, our biggest challenge? We're constantly fighting our instincts and trying to superimpose Him over the big I, the hulking ego. Lead us naturally. David HaMelech says he wakes up in the morning. Each morning he said, I wake up and I have to go out to the marketplace. And my feet naturally lead me to the Beis HaMidrash. Wouldn't that be wonderful? We wake up in the morning and instead of I gotta go to school, I gotta daven, okay. Our feet would naturally spring into action. How did that happen? Because He trained and trained and trained and trained. You know, when we get into a habit, sometimes I get into my car. My wife needs me to go somewhere, or I'm going to pick up the kids somewhere. And my mind's a little wandering, and I end up here in the driveway, no smech. I'm just naturally, I'm driving here. Hey, no, I have to turn around. It happens a lot. Why? Because, I'm going from the home to the yeshiva. And I think that's exactly what David HaMelech was experiencing. I'm not coming here to jump in the Beis Medrash and immerse myself in the sea of Torah learning, halavai. But we can make our feet into habitual machines. And we want our habit not to be habit of the body that forces us into certain hergelim. Do you know we're looking all the time to change our feet? Our feet naturally lead us. They're reglayim la'avera. They're leading us to sin. That's the human condition. It's inherent to all of us. And our job is to take that regal and make it lead us to Hashem. How does it lead us to Hashem? In the olden days, they have a mitzvah in the Torah of Aliyah L'Regal. What is Aliyah L'Regal? They had to go up to Yerushalayim 3 times a year. 3 times a year. Can you imagine? And it's called Aliyah L'Regal. See, the festivals were called Regalim. Why were they called Regalim? Because the whole purpose of the festival was that we should be festive the whole year. That we live in the Beis HaMikdash the whole year. That it's natural. 3 times makes habit. It becomes a chazaka. And so the whole life is an aliyah. We're lifting up our feet. We're lifting up our feet. It's so different. When the feet follow their natural inclinations, they pull us along. But when we're in control and we're going up, there's an aliyah, there's a lifting up, there's a spring in our step, there's an alacrity. Aliyah l'regel, we're lifting up the feet so that they should spring to the will of Hashem. We're going up to Yerushalayim. I often think about how much time was invested and lived in that Aliyah L'Regel. Can you imagine a Yid lives up in the Chelik of Naftali, or he lives in the Bashan, or he lives in the north in the Galil, or he lives down south, and he has to trek on his donkey, load up the donkey with all the provisions. He's going to Jerusalem, him and his family, his kids. It's a week's journey, preparing and loading. It's a week there in Jerusalem. It's a week back. Shavuos obviously a little less, but then there's the Bikurim that they were bringing on Shavuos. So approximately 2 or 3 months of the year evolved around going up or coming back from Jerusalem. It was so central. And the whole yearning and pining is Einei v'libi sham kol hayamim. Just like Hashem was focused on the Beis HaMikdash, they were focused on being there in Hashem's presence. It enveloped them. In order for Torah to become part of us, we're asking Hashem for divine assistance. Targileinu b'serasecha. Let it come natural to us. V'dabkeinu b'mitzvasecha. Let us cleave. Devek is glue. Dvekas is a total, absolute, intimate connectivity. It's one with us. We don't have to fight it. It's one with us. There's no resistance. See, when there's resistance, we're trying to assert ourselves and our independence and our I, and it's constantly a struggle. And when we're forced into something, we feel a sense of resentment and being squelched. And we're in a state of servitude. That's not what we want. We want to be naturally attuned to the will of Hashem. It's important in anything, in everything we do. Sometimes we go to work and it's not a job that we like, and it's not a boss that we like, and it's not the conditions that we like. And we feel like, life is so much the pits, it's so miserable. So forced into this, and he's so begrudging when he gives me my wage packet at the end of the week, and it doesn't even cover my bills, and I put in so much work. But do you know what? When we're living on a higher plane and we realize this is what Hashem wants of me, I'm springing to it. I'm not resistant to it. Of course, I'll try and make my life conditions better, and I'll do my hishtadlus. But I'm not constantly in opposition with my life's conditions. There's a dabkeinu, just like that is in the world, in everything. Mostly it's expressed in doing the will of Hashem. V'dabkeinu b'mitzvaysecha. And then we ask Hashem, ve'al tzvienu, do not allow us to be led, lo lidei chet, not to the hands of sin. Don't let us be induced by our bodies. Help us, assist us, that we shouldn't be pulled to the hands of sin. See, we don't do sins. We just get into the sticky situations that lead us to sin. The handle of a cup is how we lift up a cup. Well, how do we get into sticky situations? We watch things, we see things. Chazal say there's an Isur Yichud. Chazal gozru al ha-yichud. We're not allowed to be secluded in a room with another woman where there is no access for people to come in, or it's not a public place. 1 second, I'm platonic. I'm not doing anything. I'm a good boy. I would never think of doing anything wrong. But Chazal say, don't come to the hands of sin. Don't step into a place where it is possible for you. Don't stand on the edge of the cliff. That's the yidei, that's the hands where it's easy. A wind comes and we just go right over. And so we say, Hashem, help us, put barriers up. Don't put us in situations, help us be able to put up gedarim. We're not going to sin, but don't put us in the hands of sin. Help us, v'lo lidei avera, not to the hands of avera or ovoin. And there's a difference between chet and avera and ovin. Chet is a sin b'shoigeg. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't want to do it. It was just accidental. Incidental. I just got pushed over. The wind came and blew me over the cliff. Yeah, but why were you standing at the edge of the cliff? That's a chet. When we do the chet, we do one thing once. We watch something once. We become acclimated to it. We become immune to it. We do it again. And when we do it again, that's of Aveira, we're oiver. The Navi cries to Klal Yisrael. He says, return, Shuva Yisrael, ad Hashem Elokecha, return back to Hashem, ki koshalta ba'aveinecha, because you've tripped over in your sin. We do a sin and then we just get into it, becomes habit forming. We become inured to the spiritual pain. That's an Aveira. And then it becomes an ovoin. An ovoin is something that is bemazed, because we lose sensitivity and we're sucked into it. And now we do it willfully. We add our rotzon to it. At the beginning, our conscience is beating inside of us. It leads one to the other. V'lo lidei chet. And from chet it comes to v'lo lidei avera v'oven. V'lo lidei nisoyon. Hashem, don't test us. We don't want to be tested. Avraham Avinu was tested 10 times, and at the end of the test of the Akedah, he said, Hashem, please don't test me anymore. Now, Nisayon is great. Nisayon, testing, comes from the word nes, to be lifted up. Miraculous, because we are tapping into those spiritual reserves of energy, superhuman energies that transcend logic. That special koch that we have, and we will not get to the next level unless we're tested. But we don't want to get tested. So how are we going to get to the next level? Hashem, just don't test me. I'll get to the next level on my own, but don't test me, because it's a risk. It's too precious to risk anything. We are conservative. We don't take risks. David HaMelech said to Hashem, when Hashem said to him, it says, Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. The table, the Merkava, the Shechina stands on 3 legs. Our 3 forefathers. And David said, could we have a 4th leg? Could you add me? Why don't you add me? So to speak, not, he didn't say that as a way to promote himself, of course. And Hashem said, well, they were tested. You weren't tested. So David said, test me. And as we're all familiar, he was tested with Bathsheba, and he didn't withstand the test. We don't ask for tests. The Gemara in Kedushin, at the end of Kedushin, tells us tremendous stories about great Amoraim that said, Gira be'ena desitna, an arrow in the eye of the Satan. Test me, I've killed him, I'll slaughter him. I'm in control of my evil inclination. Oh my. That's bad news. Do you know the most important thing is to always know that he's lurking in the background, like a germ in our system that is ready to be activated at any given time, and we're never secure. Never. The great Rabbi Lapian, I'm telling you, this is Rabbi Lapian was a tzaddik, a saintly person, and he was an old man. He was in his late 80s, early 90s. He's an old man, and when he went to sleep, he had his feet on a chair outside the bed. People would sleep, Bochum would sleep with him each night. And he would sleep with his feet outside the blankets. Because he was afraid, possibly, he will come to Chas v'Shalom, impure thoughts on a nocturnal emission. Can you imagine? He didn't, he was a tzaddik Yisrael. He said, don't bring me to any potential possibility. It doesn't relate to us. I'm just giving us an idea and a concept that we always have to be on guard. There's no such thing. We don't believe in ourselves till the day of our death. Till we're in the next world, we're challenged till the very last moment. The Yetzer Hara is Yom Sheyazu Shomer Habayis. In the last moments, the Yetzer Hara is trying to trip us up. So we say to Hashem, please don't bring me lidei nisoyin, because I'm never secure. The Gemara tells us the greatest of the great, Rabbi Amram Chasida, the Gemara says. He was a chassid, he was called a chassid public. Everybody recognized he was a very, very holy man. And he said, I got the Yetzer Hara. I have him trapped and locked. I'm done with him. I'm on the next level. And Hashem said, really? And he was engaged and involved in helping a boatload of captives, young girls that were captured. He freed them, the greatest mitzvah, Pidyon Shvuim, and in order to keep them secure and safe till he was able to help find them homes the next morning or whatever, he put them on the roof of his house, and to get to the roof there was a huge, heavy ladder that had to be lifted by a few people. Thick oak, thick wood. And he moved with people. They moved the ladder away so that the women should be safe at night. Nobody should be able to molest them. And in the middle of the night, he's studying. And the moon was at its beautiful full moon. And the moon shone on one of the faces of one of the girls. And he was an old man, Rabbi Amram Chasida. But his passion was inflamed. And single-handedly, this old man took the ladder, the Gemara tells us, and schlepped it to the sides of the building. And he climbed up the ladder, and he realized he's in the grip of sin. He's in the grip of sin, and he screamed while he's in the middle of the ladder, Amram! There's a fire in the house of Amram. There's a fire. What do people do in the middle of the night when they hear fire? They run, they scream, they run in the streets. They came looking, where's the fire? Here's the fire. He saved himself. Here's the fire. And from then on he realized, don't taunt the Yetzer Hara. It was a lesson from heaven. The holiest and the saintliest and the greatest are not immune. And certainly we don't ask for Nisayon. Because we're not asking for Nisayon. We're given Nisayon. But asking for Nisayon means I'm ready. That's saying that I'm ready to take on the Yetzer Hara. It's bad news. So we say to Hashem, please, I recognize my weak position. I'm dependent on you. Don't bring us to the face of bizayon, because if we fail our tests in life, we face the greatest bizayon, the greatest busha, the greatest embarrassment when we come to the next world where everything is open and everything is revealed. Oilanu, Chazal say, Oilanu miyomadin, Oilanu miyomatechecha. Woe to us to that day of public embarrassment before all those that are close to us, before all the greats of our generation. It's all there, on the screen. There's no such thing in this world. We walk around, we can masquerade in any which way we want. And inside our minds and our heads are all kinds, it's a fertile breeding ground for all kinds of terrible stuff and fantasies and nonsense. But in the next world, the mind is who we are. Please, Hashem, don't bring us lidei bizayon. We want to be clean and pure and one with you.
Don't let the Yetzer Hara gain mastery and control over us. We're in the grips of the battle. We've got to stay in the battle. That's all Hashem wants us to stay in the boxing ring. You know, there was a great tzaddik, he said, in this world, we're in the boxing ring. We're fighting the Yetzer Hara till the end. He said, a patch ahin, a patch ahe, aber the ikke der letzte patch. He said, he gives us a punch and we give him a punch, but the most important thing is that last punch. He knocked him for good. In other words, the reality is, you know, we fall, we stand up, we fall, we stand up. That's the way it's supposed to be. But we're determined. We know we're going to win. Don't let him gain mastery over us. Remove us from an evil man and an evil friend. Because in the presence of people that are evil, even if we are not communicating, even if they're not opening up their mouth with a string of foul language, even if we don't feel that we are affected by them, being in close proximity to them subtly, subconsciously affects us. Oilo Rasha, woe to a wicked man. Oilo Shchene, woe to his neighbor. Please, Hashem, keep us away. Here we're asking after connecting to all the divine bounty. See, we got a whole toolbox given to us. We just said all the blessings. Now we say, Hashem, help me build the house. Give me the ability to fulfill what all these blessings were given to me for. And if I'm in the presence of bad company, like the Rambam writes in Hilchas Deis, in the beginning of the 6th parak, he says the most powerful influencing force on a person is his sviva, is his company, the people that we're associated with, our community, the values that are around us, because that has the most conditioning force over us. And therefore, make us cleave and cling to good inclination, to that good desire, b'maisim tovim and good deeds. Help us control and push down our inclination to want to be in servitude to you. Let us crush our ego and our need for independence. And give us today and every day lechein, to a state of chein, and chesed, and kindness, and rachmim, and mercy be'einecha, in your eyes. Look favorably upon us. Look at us with chein. Chein is such a beautiful, beautiful quality. We ask Hashem, please let us find grace in your eyes. Chein v'chesed v'rachmim. What is chein? Grace is the wrong word. Grace is the wrong word. Chein comes from the word chinam, which means nothingness. V'noach matzah chein. It's something that we find. See, if we think we're a somebody, right away, we're distant from Hashem. Chein comes from recognizing that it's all from you. There's such dignity and such wholesomeness and such realness when someone has that natural, innate humility to know it's all from Hashem. But nevertheless, they contain themselves because He's giving us life. That's not being crushed. Chein. And give us to chein and chesed and rachmim be'einecha or be'eine koreinu v'sigmelenu chasadim tovim, and be gomel to us. Gomel is from the word, gomel is vayigmol shkedim. Gomel is to blossom, to be in totality. When we do kind deeds, when we do it with its completeness, that's the word, to be gomel chasadim. Gomel is the letter gimel. You look at the gimel, and the Gemara tells us gimel and dalet are together because we are to be gomel dalim. You look at the gimel is bending over to put in the back pocket of the dal, the person that's in front of them, to put in them some money. The gimel is something that is a complete act of kindness, that's total, with absolute desire. It's fully ripened and blossomed. The sigmelenu chasadim tovim, bestow upon us kind deeds. Blessed are you, Hashem, Goimel chasadim tovim la'am Yisrael, that bestows kind deeds la'am Yisrael, to his nation of Israel. Wow. That is so powerful. And we end off with the Yehi Ratzon, which is taken from the Gemara, the Tfilas that Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi would say every day after his Shemona Esrei. The Gemara in Brachos and Daf Tes Zayin tells us all the different individual tefillas of the great Tanoim, and this was the tefillah that he said, Hashem, Yehi Ratzon u'fanechem, may it be your will, Hashem alekav v'sai, shet tatzileni hayom, that you should save me. And he said he asked for all those things that are dangers, that are lurking in the background, the oyev, the deva, the cherev, the rav, all those things that potentially could damage us, that subconsciously we're afraid of, that Hashem should keep them all at bay. Save us today, me'azeh panim u'me'azes panim, from the brazen-faced. Those that do sins are brazen-faced. From us being brazen-faced, from an evil person, from an evil friend, from an evil neighbor, mi-pegara, from evil destructive forces, mi-satna mashches, from the Satan who is out to get us, mi-din kasha, from strong judgment, mi-baldin kasha, from a strong, harsh opponent, ben-shu ben-bris, ben-shein ben-bris, whether he's Jewish or not, and some add umidina shel Gehenna, from the punishment of Gehenna. Okay, we have our morning blessings complete. We ask Hashem, we thank Hashem for all the tools that He gives us, for all the gifts that He streams us. And then we say to Hashem, please help us use these gifts and utilize them to their fullest. And therefore, let us cleave and cling to You and remove from us all those impediments. If we don't ask and we don't recognize this, and we take it for granted, then we're cruising along, but we're living like the baby. We're living like the child. Who wants to be a child? Who wants to just be carried? Who wants to be working just in the kitchen, in the laundry room? We want to be next to the King. We want to fulfill in wholesomeness our life, mission, and destiny. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Good Shabbos!
Shabbos!